Welcome to Words to Live By, a podcast series hosted by the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute. Each week, we will share some of the wit and wisdom of Ronald Reagan. In essence, Words to Live By, made up of radio addresses and speeches he delivered from the 1960s through the 1980s. So, 40 years ago at this time, our then 40th president was running for a second term. When interviewed by the Sunday Times of London, here's what he said.
Are you all geared up for the campaign?
Yes, although I know what it's going to be like because I've had one experience as governor of California running for re-election when you have to be governor at the same time.
Yes.
You have to do the job too in campaign, so it won't exactly be the kind where you go out on extended tours as it was 40 years ago.
And the unforeseen can happen.
Yes.
But you are so far ahead. Are we seeing a sea change in American politics?
I'm not going to be tempted by those. I'm worried, as a matter of fact, that maybe too many people are going to get complacent and think their votes aren't needed.
And not turn out.
I keep remembering a Republican candidate named Dewey.
So you think there's a danger of getting too overconfident, perhaps, in such a leader?
Well, not for me. I never was that way when I was in sports and athletics. I was thinking, as I put it, I'm going to run one vote behind.
So just what did the polls say? Do you remember? Well, by the end of October 1984, the latest national opinion polls strongly favored President Reagan. Newsweek's poll showed the president ahead by 17 points. A USA Today poll showed his lead at 23 points, and U.S. News and World Report said that its state-by-state survey showed Mr. Reagan way ahead in 45 out of the 50 states, and the president on his way to a smashing victory on November 6th. But as you just heard, the president was not complacent. He loved the Morning in America campaign, and he took advertising seriously. Luke Cannon, who is a presidential biographer and journalist, he wrote that Reagan was a powerful and sentimental salesman who understood that the magic of his presidency was linked to his ability to embody the values of mythic America. At the first White House meeting of his campaign advisors, known as the Tuesday Team, the president poked his head in the door and said to them, "Well, since you're the ones who are selling the soap, I thought you'd like to see the bar." The ad men got a kick out of it, and they liked working for a president who had enough understanding of their work to think of himself as a product. In addition to traditional campaign stops and advertising campaigns, the president used his bully pulpit to pursue his agenda, specifically those radio addresses from the Oval Office. So in today's podcast, we'll tune into one he sent in September 1984. Let's listen.
My fellow Americans, when I set out on this campaign, I said this election would offer one of the clearest choices in 50 years. One major element in that choice is simply this: whether America will continue to champion the great driving idea for your future, economic growth through individual opportunity, or whether our nation will return to the past and stifle that growth. We're determined to keep the mighty engine of this nation revved up, to build a future of lasting economic growth without inflation that reaches every American from the Bronx to Birmingham to San Francisco Bay. All that we've done and all that we mean to do is to make our free country freer still, to bring to each of you greater opportunities to build that stronger future. We believe opportunity is the true engine of progress, the captain of great endeavors. And that's why we asked you in 1981 to give America a new beginning, why we fought for and won a 25% tax rate reduction for everyone. Tax indexing to keep inflation from pushing you into higher tax brackets, estate tax reductions for family farms and small businesses, a reduction in the marriage penalty tax, an increase in the child care tax credit, deregulation of banking, allowing a higher rate of return for small savers, and new incentives for IRAs and Keogh contributions. These incentives are sweeping fresh winds of progress across America. Along with restraints on government spending and regulating, they're bringing America the strongest surge of economic growth, jobs, business investment, and spendable income since the 1950s.
More about Campaign 1984 right after this message.
The Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation is the nonprofit organization created by President Reagan himself, and specifically charged by him with continuing his legacy and sharing his principles: individual liberty, economic opportunity, global democracy, and national pride. We must remain vigilant and work together to share these conservative principles with younger generations. Your role is critical to move our mission forward. Thank you for your continued support. Please visit reaganfoundation.org/give. That's reaganfoundation.org/give.
Now, back to the 1984 campaign. As you listen to this radio address, you'll notice he doesn't take cheap shots at anyone or resort to name-calling. He stays on point and focuses on his accomplishments, along with a solid explanation of how one of his opponent's proposals would be destructive. It's an example of how to deliver a campaign pitch with dignity and respect. You can just picture him sitting in the Oval Office, reading from his handwritten yellow pad. Let's listen to the rest.
We're no longer talking about promises, but about progress. But while that progress is a welcome change from the past, it won't be good enough until everyone can share it. So when people ask, where do we go from here? My answer is forward, with more opportunity for more growth for all Americans. We're seeing proof that rewarding people who work and invest and save to get ahead is creating stronger growth, and in turn helping still more people to find jobs and build a better life. So we want to take this idea of incentives a big step further. We want to enact an historic simplification of our tax system, make the system more fair, easier to understand, so we can bring everybody's income tax rates further down, not up. Next, we want to put the power of incentives to work in distressed areas of our cities and countryside. We want to establish enterprise zones where taxes and regulations would be cut for anyone starting up or expanding a business. Imagine ghettos across America with people off welfare working to support their families. Imagine their families living in more secure neighborhoods with less crime, feeling hopeful again about their future. Enterprise zones can do this for America. To make a free country freer still, we want to ensure that those who produce our food and fiber have markets for their products. We've made a good start. Already, we've ended the last administration's disastrous grain embargo, restored grain sales to the Soviets with over 23 million metric tons sold in the last year, given them the go-ahead this week to buy up to 10 million tons more, and reached an agreement with Japan to virtually double our beef exports over the next 4 years. So you have a clear choice in 1984. To every American, we offer new opportunity, lower tax rates, more jobs, rising take-home pay, and a brighter future for everyone. My opponent offers the biggest single tax increase in our history, $85 billion per year, he says, but really much more if his promises are fully funded. All told, his tax increase could amount to an additional tax of $1,800 per household, a giant stop sign that would bring America's economic growth and your opportunities for the future screeching to a halt. His plan would take us back to the worst misery index of the past. Ours would enable all of us to go forward together and build new opportunity for the future. We're really talking about two different worlds. They see America wringing her hands. We see America raising her hands. They see America divided by envy, each of us challenging our neighbor's success. We see America inspired by opportunity, each of us challenging the best in ourselves. We believe in knowing when opportunity knocks. They seem determined only to knock opportunity. I think Americans are saying, don't hold us back. Give us a chance and watch how high we fly. And that's just what we want to help you do. Till next week, thanks for listening. God bless you.
Thank you for listening. For more information on the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute, including information on how to become a member, information on upcoming exhibits at the Reagan Library, and more information on the legacy of President Reagan, please visit reaganfoundation.org. And don't forget to like and follow the Reagan Foundation on all social media platforms.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Words to Live By podcast in your iTunes or Google Play stores and on other podcast platforms as they become available. New episodes of Words to Live By come out every Tuesday. Like what you hear? Check out our A Reagan Forum podcast, featuring great speeches delivered at the Reagan Library. New episodes drop every Thursday. And don't forget to follow at Ronald Reagan on Facebook, at Ronald Reagan 40 on Twitter, and Reagan Foundation on YouTube. Also, search for us on SoundCloud and Stitcher.